Hey guys, tonight we're not just telling a story. We're slipping into worn leather sandals, feeling the grit of sand underfoot, and smelling the lingering smoke of a city finally silenced after a decade of screaming. You've just fought the longest, most brutal war of your life, seen friends fall, faced monsters and human guys, and pulled off a trick so audacious it still gets talked about thousands of years later. Yeah, you won. You survived. But let's be real. Getting home from here? You probably won't survive that part. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know down in the comments where you're listening from tonight and what time it is. It's always cool to see how far these sleepy stories travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The air is thick with the scent of burnt wood and something metallic, something that catches in the back of your throat and whispers of spilled blood. You stand on what was, just days ago, the proud, defiant city of Troy, or rather, what's left of it. The flames have died down now, leaving behind a skeletal landscape of charred timbers and toppled stone. A thin, hazy smoke still curls towards the bruised dawn sky, like a final, weary sigh. Around you, your comrades, the Achaeans, move like ghosts, their faces smudged with soot and weariness, their movements slow and heavy after 10 long years away from everything they called home. 10 years! Think about that for a second. A whole decade spent fighting on foreign soil. Your kids have grown up, maybe your parents are gone, your farm is probably a mess. It makes complaining about a 2-week business trip feel a little silly, doesn't it? You're exhausted, bone-deep tired. Your muscles ache from the constant tension of battle, the nights spent sleeping in scratchy wool tunics under the stars or in damp tents. The sounds of war, the clash of bronze, the screams, the war cries are finally, blessedly, silent. Replaced now by the soft murmur of voices, the distant bleating of captured sheep, and the gentle lapping of waves on the shore where your ships wait. You did it, though. You won. After years of sieges, skirmishes, duels, and divine interventions that felt less like divine help and more like the gods just messing with you for entertainment, which, let's be honest, was probably exactly what it was, you finally breached the walls. And you didn't do it with brute force. Not in the end. You did it with a trick. A piece of cunning so audacious, it still makes people gasp it still gets talked about thousands of years later. Yeah, you won. You built a giant wooden horse. A hollow behemoth big enough to hide a hand-picked group of your best fighters inside. You pretended to sail away, leaving the horse as a supposed offering, the Trojans foolishly ignoring the warnings. Seriously, who looks a gift horse in the mouth when the horse is that big and just appeared after your enemies sailed away? They drag it inside their impregnable walls, and then, under the cover of darkness, you and the others inside slipped out, opened the gates for the rest of the army who had secretly returned, and, well, here you are, ashes and silence. The Trojan horse. It's one of those facts that everyone knows, a story so famous it feels less like history and more like legend, even though the historical site of Troy, or what archaeologists believe to be Troy, exists. Speaking of that, you might look around at the ruins and think, wow, this must have been a huge city. And in its time, it was significant. But if you were to visit the archaeological site today, overlooking the Dardanelles, you might be surprised by its scale compared to the epic scope of the myth. It's a fascinating place, layers upon layers of history, literally. Archaeologists have identified something like 9 different settlements built on top of each other over millennia. Finding the Troy of the myths within those layers? that's where things get tricky. Historians still debate whether the late Bronze Age destruction, known as Troy 7a, is the city that the Achaeans sacked, or if the Homeric poems are a composite of different historical conflicts and legends. It adds a layer of mystery, doesn't it? Were you really here in this specific spot fighting over this specific city? Or is the truth more fluid? Regardless of the exact coordinates on a modern map, the feeling is real. The exhaustion, the relief, the desperate longing for home. For 10 years, this was your world. The dusty plain outside the walls, the cramped camp, the constant threat of death. Now, suddenly, it's over. The looting is mostly done. You got your share, of course, a few pieces of bronze, maybe a fancy goblet. Nothing too ostentatious, because you're a practical sort. The sacrifices to thank or perhaps appease the gods have been made, and the ships are ready. Your ship, the one you sailed here on a decade ago, sits patiently in the bay, its single mast silhouetted against the morning light. It smells of pitch and salt and the faint, lingering odor of men who haven't had a proper bath in months. You walk towards the shore, the sand cool under your feet. The beach is a chaotic scene of men gathering their gear, calling out to friends and helping load supplies onto the waiting vessels. There's a buzz in the air, a mix of elation and trepidation. Everyone is desperate to leave, to put this place behind them, but the sea is unpredictable. It's not the gentle, familiar waters of the Aegean near your island home. This is the Hellespont, the narrow strait leading out to the wider, wilder ocean. You see Agamemnon, the High King, looking stressed, probably already planning how to explain to his wife Clytemnestra why he was gone for so long and brought back a war prize. Spoiler, it doesn't go well for him, but that's a story for another time. You see Ajax the Lesser, looking grim. You see the wise old Nestor, probably telling someone a long, rambling story about a battle from his youth that makes the Trojan War sound like a minor skirmish. And then you see your own men, your loyal crew, waiting for you. They look hopeful, tired, and ready to follow you anywhere as long as it's west. You reach your ship, the Argo. Wait, no, that was Jason. Your ship doesn't have a famous name in the myths, which is kind of unfair, right? It did just as much work getting here. Let's just call her the Sea Swallow. You step aboard, the deck planks groaning slightly under your weight. The familiar feel of the worn wood beneath your sandals is comforting. This has been your home for significant stretches of the past 10 years. You know every creak, every rope. Your men are already at their benches, ready to row. The sails are furled tight. Orders are shouted across the water. Anchors are weighed with the splash and the heave. Slowly, one by one, the ships begin to turn, their prows pointing away from the smoking ruins of Troy towards the open sea, towards home. The oars dip into the water with a rhythmic splash, a sound that feels like the heartbeat of the fleet. You watch the shoreline recede, the broken walls of Troy getting smaller and smaller until they are just a smudge on the horizon. You've done it. You've survived the war. You're heading home. It should be simple now, right? Just sail west, navigate by the stars, and in a few weeks, you'll be back on your island Ithaca. You'll see your wife, Penelope, your son, Telemachus. You'll reclaim your throne, maybe take a long nap. Easy peasy. Oh, you sweet, naive hero. If only it were that simple. The gods, it turns out, aren't quite done with you yet. The journey home is about to make the last 10 years look like a pleasant vacation. And it's going to take you another 10 years to complete. But why? Why would the journey home take just as long as the entire war? That, my friend, is where the real adventure begins. The war is over. The city of Troy, a smoldering ruin behind you. You stand on the shore, the salty breeze whipping your hair, the sound of waves a soothing counterpoint to the distant echoes of victory celebrations. Your ships finally pointed west towards home. Ithaca, your kingdom, your wife Penelope, your son Telemachus, a baby when you left, now a young man you barely know. You feel it, don't you? That deep, bone-weary exhaustion finally giving way to a surge of pure, unadulterated relief. 10 years. 10 years of fighting, scheming, surviving. And you did it. You did it. The Trojan horse, your idea. The final decisive blow. You are Odysseus, sacker of cities, the man who brought down Troy. It's a good feeling. A very good feeling. Maybe a little too good. You supervise the loading of supplies, the final checks on the ships. Men are singing, laughing, already picturing their own hearths. You give orders, your voice perhaps a little louder, a little more confident than usual. Why shouldn't it be? You've just achieved the impossible. You are a hero. You are, arguably, at the peak of your mortal power and fame. And that, right there, is where the trouble starts. You see, the gods, they don't really like it when mortals get too big for their britches, especially not when those mortals start taking all the credit. There's a delicate balance, you see, between acknowledging fate and divine favor and just straight-up peacocking. And right now, you are doing some serious peacocking. You set sail. The initial voyage is smooth. The Aegean Sea is, for a while, surprisingly calm. You cut through the waves, the wind filling your sails, the familiar creak of the timber, a comforting lullaby. You watch the coastline recede, the shadow of Troy fading into the haze. Home. It feels so close now, a matter of weeks, maybe. But the sea, as any sailor knows, is a fickle mistress, and the god who rules it, Poseidon, is known for his temper. He holds grudges. He feels slighted easily. Some scholars debate whether Poseidon was already annoyed with Odysseus or the Achaeans for some perceived insult during the war, perhaps related to the walls of Troy which he helped build, or maybe just because he felt like it. But whatever his existing mood, you are about to provide him with a very personal reason to make your life a living nightmare. Your ships are blown off course. A storm, sudden and fierce, scatters your fleet. You find yourself driven onto an unfamiliar shore. It's an island, lush and green, but with a wild, untamed feel. You land with a few ships, needing supplies, needing to regroup. You leave most of your men by the ships, taking only a small scouting party inland. You're cautious, always cautious, but perhaps that edge of post-victory arrogance dulls your senses just a little. You find a cave, a huge cave, shrouded in trees. Inside there are signs of habitation, sheep pens, baskets overflowing with massive cheeses, milk pails the size of small barrels. Everything here is oversized. You and your men enter, curiosity overriding caution. You wait, perhaps hoping to find the inhabitant and ask for hospitality. In ancient Greece, hospitality, xenia, was a sacred duty protected by Zeus himself. Travelers were to be welcomed, fed, and given gifts. It was the bedrock of social interaction between communities. This is a mainstream historical fact, a core principle of the world you live in. You expect this rule to apply. Oh, how you are wrong. The inhabitant returns. He fills the entrance to the cave, a colossal figure with a single, enormous eye in the center of his forehead, a cyclops. His name is Polyphemus, and he is not interested in xenia, not one bit. He rolls a massive stone across the cave entrance, trapping you inside. You are, to put it mildly, in a bit of a pickle. This is like showing up for a friendly potluck and finding out the host plans to eat the guests instead of the casserole. Definitely not a 5-star Yelp review experience. Polyphemus is direct. He grabs 2 of your men and, well, he eats them, raw. It's horrific. The sounds, the smell of blood, the sheer unthinking brutality of it. You're helpless, trapped. You watch your companions die, unable to intervene. It's a stark reminder that despite your cleverness, despite your strength, you are still vulnerable. You spend the night in terror, the Cyclops snoring thunderously. Your mind races. How do you escape a giant who can move the only exit? Killing him won't work. You'll be trapped with his corpse. You need a plan, a clever one, something that requires thought, not just brute force. This is your element. This is where you shine. You notice a massive olive wood club left by Polyphemus. It's huge, like a tree trunk. You hatch your plan. You select 4 of your strongest men, plus yourself. You sharpen the end of the club to a point, hardening it in the fire. You prepare a gift, wine, strong wine you brought from your ship. The next day, Polyphemus eats 2 more men. Then you offer him the wine. He's never tasted anything like it. He drinks it down, asking for more. He becomes drunk, drowsy. In his stupor, he asks you your name. You tell him your name is Nobody. He promises to eat Nobody last. What a generous host. As he passes out, you and your men take the sharpened stake. You heat the tip in the fire until it glows. Then, with a coordinated effort, you drive it into his single eye. You hear the scream, a sound that echoes through the cave across the island, a sound of agony and rage. Polyphemus thrashes blindly, roaring for help from his fellow Cyclopses. They gather outside the cave, hearing his cries. "What is it, Polyphemus? Who are hurting you?" they shout. "Nobody is hurting me," he bellows back in his wine-fogged agony. They groan, assuming he's just having a bad dream or is afflicted by a god. "If nobody is hurting you, then pray to our father Poseidon," they call back, and they leave. This detail, that the other Cyclopses are aware of their divine parentage and suggest praying to Poseidon, is a quirky tidbit often overlooked. It highlights their connection to the sea god, making your subsequent actions even more provocative. With Polyphemus blinded, you devise the final part of your escape. At dawn, he will need to let his sheep out to pasture. He'll feel their backs as they leave, making sure no men are riding on them. But you have another idea. You tie your men to the undersides of the rams, 3 sheep to each man, the largest ram in the middle carrying the man. You yourself cling to the belly of the biggest ram of all, Polyphemus's favorite. As the Cyclops lets his flock out, he feels the backs of the sheep, but not the men hidden underneath. He talks to his favorite ram, wondering why it's the last one out, heavy with sorrow, or so he thinks. You pass right under his hand, clinging silently to the woolly underside. You reach your ships with the surviving men. You quickly load the sheep, push off from the shore, and begin to row furiously away from the island. You are safe. You have escaped. You have defeated a giant. And this is where the hubris, the post-victory arrogance, comes back to bite you. You are rowing away, the island receding. You are safe. You could just keep rowing. You could disappear over the horizon. But you can't help yourself. You have to have the last word. You have to take credit. You stand up in your ship, cupping your mouth around your mouth. You yell back at the shore where you can see the blind giant stumbling. "Polyphemus, if anyone asks you who blinded you, tell them it was Odysseus, sacker of cities, son of Laertes, who lives in Ithaca." This is the ancient equivalent of escaping a dangerous situation and then immediately posting your full name, address, and a blow-by-blow account on social media. It's not your smartest move. Polyphemus hears you. His agony turns to focused rage. He remembers his father. He stretches out his hands towards the sea, towards the heavens. He prays to Poseidon, his divine father. He recounts what you did, naming you, telling his father who to punish. He asks Poseidon to curse you, to ensure you never reach home, or, if fate decrees you must, that you arrive late, in misery, on a foreign ship, having lost all your companions. And Poseidon hears you. Oh, he hears you. His son, blinded, humiliated by a mortal, this is a direct insult to the god himself. This is the moment the sea god turns his divine wrath squarely upon you. You feel the change. The sea churns around you, a roiling, angry beast. The wind howls through the rigging, tearing at the sails you just moments ago felt so confident in. Poseidon, god of the deep, is making his displeasure known. Every wave feels like a personal slap, every gust of wind a whispered threat. Your small fleet is tossed about like bath toys in a giant's tub. This is not the gentle sail home you envisioned after Troy. This is punishment. Days bleed into nights under a sky that seems permanently bruised. You fight the elements, the men exhausted, the ships battered, provisions dwindle. The easy victory at Troy, the triumph over the Cyclops, it all feels like a distant memory, overshadowed by the immediate, bone-deep misery of being at the mercy of an enraged god. You need shelter. You need supplies. You need a break. Spotting a coastline through the spray, a land that looks fertile and inviting, you make the call, head for shore. The relief among the crew is palpable. Anything is better than this endless, violent rocking. You beach your ships on the shores near the city of Ismarus, the land of the Cicones. These aren't people you have a specific grudge against. You're not here for glory or conquest, not really. You're here because you're desperate. Think of it as an unscheduled resupply stop, just slightly more aggressive than pulling into a modern port and swiping some snacks from the duty-free shop. Your men, hardened by years of war, swarm ashore. They move with practiced efficiency, like a well-oiled machine suddenly unleashed after being cooped up for a decade. They raid the coastal settlements, taking livestock, grain, wine, anything of value they can carry back to the ships. There's resistance, of course, but these initial skirmishes are brief and brutal. The Cicones here aren't prepared for a sudden assault from battle-hardened Greeks fresh off the Trojan War. It's a harsh reality of the era you live in. In the Bronze Age and early Iron Age, raiding wasn't always seen as purely criminal. It was often a brutal but accepted part of the economy and warfare, a way to acquire resources, wealth, and sometimes even status. You weren't exactly pirates, not yet anyway, but you were certainly engaging in activities that would get you on a watch list today. You, Odysseus, know the importance of striking fast and leaving faster. You gather your men, urging them to load the spoils and get back on the ships. Quickly now, we've got what we came for. Let's put some distance between us on these shores before they can muster a larger force. But your men, your men. 10 years at Troy, followed by the tense escape from the Cyclops, has left them craving comfort and release. They have food, they have wine, they have plunder. They decide to linger. They slaughter the livestock, light fires, and begin to feast on the beach, celebrating their easy victory. They ignore your commands, lost in the moment, in the intoxicating feeling of being on solid ground with full bellies and loot. You watch them, a knot tightening in your stomach. This is a mistake, a big one. You know that in societies like this, clans are often interconnected, neighbors ready to lend aid. The Cicones you just raided won't just lick their wounds and forget about it. They'll send messengers. They'll call for help from inland, from their more powerful kinsmen. And that's exactly what happens. While your men are sprawled on the beach, drunk and complacent, the alarm is raised. Messengers ride inland, spreading the word of the foreign invaders. The Cicones from the interior, known for being fierce fighters, especially when mounted, gather their forces. This is a quirky detail Homer mentions. These guys weren't just coastal villagers, they had serious backup. They arrive in the dead of night, a dark wave descending on your unsuspecting men. You are roused by the sounds of fighting, the clash of bronze, the shouts of alarm. You scramble to organize a defense, but it's chaos. Your men are caught completely off guard, many still drunk, others just waking from a deep sleep. It's an ambush, pure and simple. You fight fiercely, rallying your men as best you can. The battle rages on the beach and among the ships. The Cicones are numerous and determined, fighting to defend their homes and avenge their kinsmen. You push them back from the ships, creating a desperate defensive line. It's a brutal slugfest, shield against shield, spear against spear. You see men you fought alongside for years fall, run through, cut down. The sand turns dark. It's a desperate struggle for survival. You are outnumbered, outflanked, and still shaking off the effects of the earlier feasting. Well, they were feasting. You were worried. It feels a bit like trying to fight off a zombie horde after a particularly heavy Sunday brunch. Not ideal fighting conditions. Slowly, grimly, you realize this isn't a battle you can win. The Cicones keep coming, wave after wave. Your only hope is to retreat, to get back to the sea. You order your men to fall back to the ships, covering their withdrawal, fighting a desperate rearguard action. Getting the ships launched under attack is a nightmare. Men stumble aboard, wounded and exhausted. Others don't make it. You're forced to leave some behind, a gut-wrenching decision you have to make to save the rest. You push the ships off the beach, scrambling aboard the last one yourself as Cicones pursue you into the shallow water. As you row frantically away from the shore, you look back. The beach is littered with bodies, both Cicone and Greek. For every Cicone you've killed, you've lost good men. 6 men from each of your 12 ships. That's 72 lives extinguished in this one disastrous stop. 72 men who survived Troy, survived the Cyclops so far, only to die on a random beach because they couldn't resist one more drink and one more roasted sheep. The cost is heavy. These were not nameless faces. They were comrades, friends, men who trusted you to get them home, and you failed them here. This wasn't a glorious battle. It was a costly mistake, born of indiscipline and poor judgment, mostly your men's, but you were the one who landed them there. Historians still argue whether the Cicones were a distinct people or a Thracian tribe, debating the exact location of Ismarus based on Homer's descriptions and archaeological findings. But for you, the specifics don't matter. What matters is the loss. You sail away from the land of the Cicones, the taste of defeat bitter in your mouth. The easy part of the journey is definitely over. You've just learned, in the most brutal way possible, that the journey home will be fraught with peril and that your greatest enemies might not always be monsters or gods, but the flaws and weaknesses of your own crew. And, perhaps, sometimes, your own choices. You sail away from the land of the Cicones, the taste of defeat bitter in your mouth. The easy part of the journey is definitely over. You've just learned, in the most brutal way possible, that the journey home will be fraught with peril, and that your greatest enemies might not always be monsters or gods, but the flaws and weaknesses of your own crew, and perhaps sometimes your own choices. The sea is angry for a while. 9 days, the poets will say later, though for you, living through it, it feels like an eternity of gray waves and stinging spray. The winds howl, whipping your sails, threatening to tear them to shreds. You and your men, battered and exhausted, cling to the deck, the memory of the Cicones a cold knot in your stomach, the faces of the lost haunting your sleep when you can snatch any sleep at all. You navigate by the stars when they appear, by instinct when they don't, pushing westward, always westward, towards the impossible dream of Ithaca. Then, as suddenly as the storm began, it breaks. The clouds part, revealing a sky of impossibly vibrant blue. The wind softens, becoming a gentle caress. The sea calms, turning from a churning monster into a vast, shimmering mirror. You sail into waters so still, so clear, you can see the fish darting beneath the surface. Ahead, an island emerges from the haze, not jagged and forbidding like the Sikones coast, but low, lush, and inviting. It seems to beckon you closer, a green jewel rising from the tranquil sea. The air grows warm, fragrant with the scent of unknown flowers and ripe fruit. It's a smell that wraps around you, soothing the raw edges of your recent trauma, whispering promises of peace and rest. As you approach the shore, the scent intensifies. It's sweet, intoxicating, subtly floral, with an earthy undertone. It feels like a balm to your weary soul. You find a sheltered cove, the water lapping gently against the sand with a sound that's almost hypnotic, a soft, rhythmic shoosh, shoosh, shoosh. This feels different. Dangerously peaceful, perhaps. You decide caution is necessary. You anchor the ships and select a few men, 2 trusted companions and a herald, to go ashore and investigate. Their mission is simple: discover who inhabits this land and if they are hostile. You watch as their small boat glides towards the beach, their figures growing smaller against the backdrop of vibrant green. Hours pass. The sun climbs high, warms your skin, and the fragrant air seems to make the passage of time irrelevant. The gentle lapping of the waves, the soft rustling of leaves on the shore carried by the breeze, the distant calls of unfamiliar birds, it all contributes to a feeling of deep, pervasive calm. It's the kind of calm that feels suspiciously like apathy. You find yourself sitting on the deck, just sitting. The urgency that has driven you since leaving Troy seems to dissipate like mist in the morning sun. Where are your men? You finally rouse yourself, a spark of concern cutting through the pleasant haze. You call for more men and head ashore yourself, leaving strict orders for the rest to remain by the ships, ready to sail at a moment's notice. Stepping onto the sand, the air is even more potent with that sweet, heavy scent. It's coming from plants growing everywhere, low bushes covered in strange, colorful flowers and bearing plump, juicy fruits. The lotus. You recognize the name from travelers' tales, though you never gave them much credence. Now, seeing these plants, smelling their intoxicating perfume, you feel a pull, a strange desire just to lie down, to stop thinking, to stop wanting. You follow the faint trail left by your men deeper into the island's embrace. The inhabitants appear. They are not fearsome giants or warring tribes, but gentle, mild-mannered people. They greet you not with spears or shouts, but with soft voices and open hands, offering baskets of the very fruit that fills the air with its scent, the lotus. And there are your men, sitting with the lotus eaters, their faces serene, their eyes distant. They are eating the fruit. As you watch, one of them lifts a piece to his mouth, chewing slowly, his expression utterly blank. He smiles, a soft, unfocused smile, and offers a piece to you. "Eat," he murmurs, his voice slurred and peaceful. "There is only peace here. No need to go anywhere. No need to remember." You feel the pull again, stronger this time, to eat the fruit, to forget the endless journey, the dangers, the losses, the gnawing ache for home, to forget the faces of your wife and son, to simply be. It's the ultimate temptation, isn't it? Not pleasure, but the cessation of pain, of responsibility, of memory itself. It's the ancient world's version of just scrolling endlessly through social media, losing track of purpose and aim, except way more effective and with actual fruit. You look at your men. The spark, the determination, the fear, it's all gone, replaced by a placid emptiness. They have no desire to report back, no concern for the ships, no memory of Ithaca or their families. They only want to stay here, eating the lotus, lost in a perpetual state of gentle oblivion. This is the real danger of this place, not death, but the death of identity, the erasure of everything that makes you, you. You resist. With a force of will that surprises even yourself, you push past the intoxicating scent, past the whispering temptation. You grab your men, shaking them, trying to snap them out of it. They resist weakly, murmuring about the sweetness of the fruit, the peace of the island, the foolishness of wanting to leave. They don't recognize you fully. You are just a disturbance in their perfect, hazy calm. This is not a negotiation. This is an extraction. You and the men you brought with you physically drag your scouts away from the Lotus Eaters who watch with mild, uncomprehending curiosity. Your scouts moan and protest, not with anger, but with the whiny complaint of a toddler whose favorite toy has been taken away. "No, I want to stay. It's so nice. Home is boring." Honestly, getting them back to the boat is like trying to herd very tranquil, very sticky cats. You practically throw them into the boat, their eyes still glazed, their movements sluggish. You row back to the ships, the sweet, cloying scent of the lotus following you like a phantom limb. Once aboard, you don't waste a second. You order the rest of the crew to secure the Lotus Eaters' victims beneath the benches, tied firmly so they cannot escape back to the shore. They weep softly, not from pain or fear, but from the simple, profound sadness of being separated from their source of forgetting. You bark orders, your voice sharp, cutting through the lingering haze. "Get the ships ready. Launch immediately. No one eats the fruit. Do not look back." As your men scramble, pulling up anchors, readying the oars, you cast one last look at the shore. The Lotus Eaters stand by the water's edge, silent, watching your departure with the same placid disinterest they showed your arrival. The island itself seems to sigh, a gentle whisper of wind through the lotus plants, carrying that sweet, dangerous scent one last time. This episode, though brief and seemingly less violent than the Cicones or the storm, is perhaps the most insidious. It tests your core desire, your fundamental purpose. The ancient Greeks placed immense value on memory and identity. To lose your memory was, in a very real sense, to cease being yourself. Philosophers like Plato would later explore the idea of recollection or anamnesis as crucial to knowledge and selfhood, making this episode a powerful early exploration of the dangers of forgetting. Historians still argue whether the Lotus Eaters episode is purely allegorical or based on travelers' tales of cultures using psychoactive plants. Some fringe theories even attempt to pinpoint the island's location based on descriptions of flora, suggesting it might be somewhere along the North African coast, where certain plants with sedative properties are found. Regardless of the scholarly debate or the actual botany involved, the message is clear. Sometimes the greatest threat to your journey isn't something that wants to kill you, but something that makes you stop caring that you're alive or that you have a home to return to. You sail away, the image of your men's vacant eyes burned into your mind. The taste of the sea salt is sharp and real. The feel of the rough wood beneath your hands is solid. These sensations are anchors, pulling you back from the edge of apathy. The journey home is... You sail on, the rough wood of the ship a familiar comfort beneath your hands. The wind is a steady whisper filling the sails, pushing you away from the land of the lotus eaters, away from that sweet, dangerous oblivion. Your senses are sharp now, perhaps sharper than before. The sting of the salt spray on your face, the creak of the mast, the distant cry of a seabird, they all anchor you to the present, to the real world, the one where you are Odysseus, son of Laertes, and you are trying to go home. The next land you reach is different. As you approach, you see no harbors, no signs of cultivation, no roads winding inland. It's rugged, mountainous, wild. You know from the tales whispered by sailors in distant ports that this is the land of the Cyclopes. Giants, they say. Lawless, solitary creatures who care nothing for the customs of men or even the gods. They live in caves, tend flocks, and that's about it. No society, no rules, no concept of hospitality. A core value, you know, in ancient Greek society where welcoming strangers was seen as a sacred duty, often protected by Zeus himself. These Cyclopes, apparently, didn't get the memo. You beach your ship on a nearby island first, a smaller one that seems uninhabited. It's a good place to rest, to gather yourselves. You see smoke rising from the main island across a narrow channel, the land of the Cyclopes. Curiosity, that old companion, tugs at you. You decide to take one ship and a dozen of your best men to investigate. Just to look around, you tell yourself. See what kind of people live there. Maybe trade for supplies. You row across the channel. The air here feels heavier somehow, ancient. You land quietly on a deserted stretch of beach and leave most of the men to guard the ship. With your chosen 12, you head inland, following a path that seems to lead towards the smoke you saw. You carry a goat skin of dark, potent wine given to you by Marin, a priest of Apollo, back in Ismarus, a gift you figure might come in handy. You also carry a large sack of provisions, just in case. Soon you come across a cave. It's huge, set high on a slope, shaded by trees. Inside, you can hear the bleating of sheep and goats. It looks like a shepherd's cave, but on a truly enormous scale. Your men are hesitant. "Maybe we should just take some cheese and lambs and go," one whispers, his eyes wide. It's a tempting idea, honestly. Grab some food, get back to the ship, no fuss. But no, that wouldn't be you, would it? You are Odysseus. You want to meet the owner, see if he'll offer you gifts, as is proper when a guest arrives. Hospitality, remember? You still believe in it, even if others don't. You enter the cave. It smells of sheep, cheese, and something else. Damp earth, maybe. It's vast inside. Along the walls are pens filled with lambs and kids, sorted by age. Wicker baskets overflow with cheeses. Jars and pails are brimming with milk and whey. It looks, well, like a giant's pantry or maybe a really messy bachelor pad if the bachelor was the size of a small building and really into dairy. It's clear the owner is wealthy in flocks and their produce. You and your men sit down and wait. You light a fire, maybe roast a little cheese, because waiting is always better with snacks. You probably shouldn't be doing this, you know. Your men were right. This feels exposed, but you wait anyway. As evening falls, you hear him coming. The ground outside the cave trembles with his footsteps. A truly colossal figure appears in the entrance, the Cyclopes. He's a mountain of a man, shaggy and wild, and in the center of his forehead, a single enormous eye. This is Polyphemus, son of Poseidon, god of the sea. Great. Just what you needed. He drives his flocks into the cave, then reaches outside and picks up a stone. Not a stone, really. It's a boulder, a slab so immense that 22 of your strongest wagons couldn't budge it. With a grunt, he sets it in the mouth of the cave, sealing you inside. The air grows heavy. The light dims. You are trapped. He turns, sees you and your men huddled in the corner. His voice is like thunder. "Who are you?" he bellows. You stand up, trying to keep your voice steady. You introduce yourself and your men, explaining you are Achaeans, blown off course. You mention Zeus and the sacred laws of hospitality, hoping to appeal to some shred of decency. He just laughs, a harsh, rumbling sound. "You are a fool, stranger," he grunts. "We Cyclopes pay no mind to Zeus or your gods. We are mightier than they are." He stares at you with that single, terrible eye, and you feel a chill run down your spine. Then, faster than you can react, he reaches out, grabs two of your men. They don't even have time to scream properly. There's a horrible, wet sound, a sickening crunch, and then they are gone, consumed, just like that. Your stomach lurches. You watch in horror, paralyzed by the sheer brutality, the casual, monstrous cruelty of it. He eats them, bones and all, like some kind of giant, horrifying snack. He yawns, stretches out among his sheep, and falls asleep. His snoring is like rocks tumbling down a mountain. You and your remaining men are left in the dark, the stench of death and sheep filling the air, the image of your lost comrades burned into your minds. You think about killing him right there, driving your sword into his chest, but you look at the stone blocking the entrance. If you kill him, you'll be trapped forever. There's nothing you can do but wait. The night is long and silent, save for the Cyclope snores. Morning comes, filtering weakly through cracks in the stone. He wakes, stretches, and promptly grabs two more of your men. Another sickening scene, another wave of helpless terror and grief. He eats them for his breakfast, then moves the massive stone as if it were a pebble, lets his flocks out to pasture, and puts the stone back. You are alone with your remaining 6 men, surrounded by the constant reminders of his gruesome diet. Fear is a cold knot in your gut, but something else is stirring too. Anger, and that old friend, cunning. You look around the cave. You see a massive club, green and fresh cut, lying by the wall. Polyphemus's walking stick, probably. It's as tall as a mast. You tell your men your plan. It's desperate, audacious, and involves a lot of pain for the Cyclopes. You take the club and cut off a section about 6 feet long. You and your men strip it, sharpen one end to a wicked point, and then temper it in the fire, hardening the wood until it glows white. It's painstaking work done in tense silence. The smell of scorching wood fills the cave. You hide the sharpened stake carefully, waiting. Evening returns, and so does Polyphemus. He drives in his flocks, seals the cave, and grabs 2 more of your men for dinner. Only 4 of you are left now. As he finishes his meal, you step forward, clutching the goat skin of wine. "You, Cyclopes," you say, your voice steady despite the trembling in your hands. "You have eaten human flesh. Drink this wine now and see what kind of drink we had on our ship. I brought it as a libation, hoping you might show me pity and help me home, but you are mad with rage." He takes the skin and gulps down the dark, sweet wine. His eyes widen. He takes another drink, and another. He's never tasted anything like it. "Give me more!" he roars, his voice losing some of its menace, becoming thick and slurred. "And tell me your name, stranger, so I may give you a gift in return." You pour him more wine. He drinks it down greedily. "This is it, your chance." "My name is Nobody," you say, choosing your words carefully, a small, dangerous smile playing on your lips. Nobody. In Greek, that's nomes. There's a bit of a pun there, you see, because otis sounds like metis, which means cunning or skill. A little linguistic foreshadowing, perhaps. Historians still argue whether this double meaning was intentional on Homer's part, but it certainly fits your character. Polyphemus laughs, a drunken, booming sound. "Nobody, is it? Well, nobody, here is the gift I will give you. I will eat you last." He slumps over, the wine finally taking hold, and passes out, snoring louder than ever. Now is the time. You and your remaining men take the sharpened stake. You thrust the point into the heart of the fire, letting it heat up until it glows white hot. The air shimmers with the heat. The smell of burning wood is intense. With a coordinated effort, the sharpened stake. You thrust the point into the heart of the fire, letting it heat until it glows white hot. The air shimmers with the heat. The smell of burning wood is intense. With a coordinated effort, you and your remaining men hoist the massive glowing stake. It's heavy, awkward, and radiating heat that makes your skin prickle even from a distance. Sweat beads on your forehead, dripping into your eyes. The stone floor is gritty under your bare feet. You move towards the sleeping giant. His snoring is a deep, resonant rumble that vibrates in your chest. It smells of sheep, stale wine, and something else, something unpleasant and wild. His single eye, mercifully closed in drunken slumber, is a vast dark orb in the dim light reflecting from the fire. You position the stake. Your heart hammers against your ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the otherwise quiet cave, punctuated only by the giant's snores and the crackling fire. This is it. This is the moment. Together you surge forward. You drive the glowing stake into the giant's eye. There is an immediate, horrific hiss, like water hitting a hot pan but amplified 1,000 times. Steam rises, thick and acrid, smelling of burning flesh and something metallic. The giant's roar erupts, a sound so primal, so full of agony that it shakes the very stone of the cave. It's a sound that will echo in your nightmares for years to come. He thrashes wildly, blind and in agony. He rips the stake from his eye, screaming the name, "Nobody!" over and over. He stumbles around the cave, bellowing, arms outstretched, trying to catch you. You and your men scatter, pressing themselves flat against the cold, damp cave walls, trying to become invisible in the chaos. Rocks rain down from the ceiling as he slams against the sides of the cave. Dust fills the air, making you cough silently. He is blind now, but he is still massive, still dangerous. He stands guard at the mouth of the cave, his enormous hands sweeping back and forth, hoping to catch you as you try to escape. How do you get past him? He fills the entire opening. You can't just run out. You look around the cave, your mind racing. You see the sheep, huddled together, bleating softly, oblivious to the terror unfolding around them. And then you have an idea. It's a simple idea, born of desperation, but it might just work. As dawn approaches, the Cyclops moves to let his sheep out to graze. He feels the back of each animal as it passes, making sure no man is riding on its back. He's not stupid, this giant, just one-eyed and currently very angry. You gather your men. You instruct them to tie themselves to the underbellies of the largest rams, using the sheep's own wool and some rope you have. It's uncomfortable. The wool is greasy, smells strongly of lanolin and sheep musk, and the ground is cold and hard against your back. You tie yourself beneath the lead ram, burying your face in its thick fleece, trying not to gag. Slowly the giant lets the sheep out. You hear his rough hands patting the backs of the animals above you. Your heart is in your throat. You feel the ram move, stepping towards the light. You are moving with it, hidden beneath its bulk. You feel the giant's hand run over the ram's back, just inches above you. He grunts, satisfied, and lets the animal pass. One by one, your men follow, hidden beneath the sheep. It feels like an eternity as each ram passes through the narrow opening, the giant's hands a constant threat above. The air outside is cool and fresh, a stark contrast to the stifling cave. The smells are of grass, sea salt, and freedom. You are out. You are free. Once you are well clear of the cave, out of earshot of the now blinded giant, you and your men untie yourselves from the sheep. You leave them to graze, a small price for your lives. You run towards your ship, moored a short distance away. The sea breeze is invigorating. The sand is cooled between your toes. You reach the ship. Your remaining crew who stayed behind cheer at your survival, their faces a mixture of relief and disbelief. You quickly load up and push off from the shore. As you row away, gaining distance, you can't resist. It's the hubris, the sheer relief, the need to strike one last blow. You stand on the deck and shout back towards the island. Cyclops, if anyone asks who blinded you, tell them it was Odysseus, son of Laertes, the destroyer of cities, who lives in Ithaca. Yeah, maybe not your smartest move in hindsight. A little bit like leaving a scathing Yelp review and then sticking around to see the manager's reaction. He hears you. His roars of pain turn into roars of pure, unadulterated rage. He knows your name now. He knows where you are from. He knows you. This is important later. Very important. He stumbles down to the shore, guided by your voice. He picks up massive boulders, rocks the size of small houses, and hurls them towards the sound of your voice. The first one lands just behind your ship, sending a wave crashing over the stern and threatening to swamp you. Your men row harder, their muscles burning. The second boulder lands just in front of you, narrowly missing the bow, creating another dangerous swell. You urge them on, the terror of being crushed by mythological artillery a powerful motivator. Finally, you are far enough out. The rocks fall short, splashing harmlessly into the sea. You look back at the island, the monstrous figure on the shore shrinking with distance. You have survived the Cyclops, but you have also made a powerful enemy, a son of the sea god, Poseidon. This will definitely come back to bite you. You sail on, the salty spray hitting your face, the rhythmic sound of the oars a calming contrapoint to the recent terror. You bury your dead, mourn your lost men. The journey continues. Your next stop is the island of Aeolus. Aeolus, the master of the winds. You reach his floating island, a place surrounded by cliffs of bronze and topped by a splendid palace. It's a strange, ethereal place. You are welcomed by Aeolus himself, a friendly, somewhat portly god who lives a life of leisure with his wife and 12 children. They feast and celebrate your arrival for a full month. It's a welcome respite from the horrors you've faced. Good food, warm beds, no man-eating monsters. Almost makes you forget you're trying to get home. You spend your days recounting your adventures, sharing stories with the god of winds and his family. You learn about his domain, how he controls the different winds, keeping them locked away in vast caverns. It's a fascinating glimpse into the mechanics of the ancient world's weather system. When it is time to leave, you approach Aeolus with a request. You need help getting home. He is sympathetic, impressed by your tales and your resilience. He decides to give you a gift that should ensure a swift journey back to Ithaca. He presents you with a large bag made from the hide of a flayed ox. It is tied shut with a tight silver cord. He explains that within this bag are contained all the winds: the boisterous north wind, the gentle south wind, the blustering west wind, the hot east wind, all of them, except for one. He leaves the west wind free, a favorable breeze to carry you directly back to your homeland. Do not open this bag, Odysseus, Aeolus warns you, his voice kind but firm. It contains forces that mortal men cannot control. Keep it safe. Let the west wind guide you. You thank him profusely. This is it. This is your ticket home. You take the bag, heavy with the imprisoned winds, and return to your ship. You set sail, the west wind filling your sails, pushing you swiftly across the sea. You sail for 9 days and 9 nights, 9 days closer to home. The sea is calm, the wind steady. You don't sleep. You stay awake, gripping the tiller, watching the stars, keeping the ship on course. You are so close, so incredibly close. You can almost smell the olive trees of Ithaca. You can almost see the familiar coastline. On the 10th day, Ithaca is in sight. You can see the smoke rising from your own hearths. You can see people on the shore, tiny figures in the distance. You are there. After all these years, all these trials, you are home. And then exhaustion finally claims you. After 9 days without sleep, your eyelids are heavy, your body aches. You trust your crew. You have been through so much together. You hand over the helm, giving strict instructions to maintain the course. You curl up on the deck, the bag of winds tucked securely beside you, and fall into a deep, well-deserved sleep. This is where things go spectacularly, tragically wrong. While you sleep, your crew starts to talk. They look at the bag. They see the silver cord. They remember all the treasures you have collected on your journey, the gold from the Cicones, the gifts from Aeolus himself. They assume there are more than just the wind bag, because, God's palace. They see you, the great leader about to return home, rich and famous, while they are still just tired, hungry sailors. They whisper among themselves, "What's in the bag? Gold? Silver?" Surely the old man gave him more than just a breeze. He's keeping it all for himself. Distrust, born of hardship and jealousy, festers to keep going. The sea is flat, still like glass reflecting the bruised purple sky. The wind is utterly gone. You're adrift, but you can see land ahead, faint on the horizon. It looks promising? You finally drift closer, then manage to row the last few miles. It's a strange place, a massive harbor enclosed by towering cliffs on all sides, except for a narrow entrance. It's almost perfectly circular, like a giant's bathtub. Or maybe just a really inconvenient place to park your boat if the entrance is narrow and the wind is blowing the wrong way. Thankfully, there's no wind now. It looks incredibly safe, protected. All your 11 remaining ships glide in, one by one, through the narrow mouth of the harbor. It feels like a sigh of relief after the open, unpredictable sea. Your men let out a collective breath. It feels sheltered. Too sheltered, maybe? Hindsight is 20/20, isn't it? All your ships drop anchor inside this calm, deep basin. All of them. Except yours. There's something about this place that just feels off. A prickle on the back of your neck. You decide to anchor your own ship just outside the harbor entrance, tying it to a rock outcrop. Call it paranoia, call it instinct, call it having a really bad feeling in your gut that you've learned to listen to. Your men grumble a bit. It's much calmer inside, but they trust you, most of them anyway. The sun is starting to dip below the cliff tops, casting long, deep shadows. Smoke curls lazily upwards from somewhere inland. Signs of habitation. Maybe friendly people? Maybe a chance to restock, get some food that isn't hardtack and questionable jerky. Maybe even hear some news of the outside world. It's been a while since you've seen anything resembling civilization that wasn't trying to kill you. You send out a scouting party, 2 men, plus a herald. Always good to have someone who can shout loudly and officially. Their instructions are simple. Go inland, find out who lives here. Are they friendly? Do they have supplies? Be polite. Don't start anything. You watch them go, disappearing up a track that leads inland. You wait. The light fades. The harbor is quiet, the ships bobbing gently. The silence is only broken by the lap of water against hulls and the distant sound of something. Is that shouting? A scream. A single blood-curdling scream echoing from inland, and then another, and then nothing. A cold dread washes over you. That wasn't a friendly greeting. You squint into the twilight. Figures are appearing on the cliff tops, silhouetted against the dying light, and they are huge, taller than trees, hulking shapes that move with surprising speed. Lystrigonons. The legends speak of them. Giants. Cannibals. Oh joy. Just what you needed after the Cyclops. It's like the universe is just ticking off a list of mythological horrors for you. Right, got the storm done, checked off the man-eating giant. What's next? Ah yes, more man-eating giants. Excellent! Your scouts. You don't want to think about it. The figures on the cliff tops are pointing. They've seen the ships in the harbor, and they look hungry. Panic erupts in the harbor. Your men on the ships inside start shouting, scrambling to cut their anchor ropes, to get oars out. But it's too late. From the cliff tops, the Lystrigonons start throwing rocks. Not pebbles, boulders. Rocks the size of small houses. They wrench them from the cliff face, massive hands gripping the stone, and hurl them down into the enclosed harbor. The sound is horrifying. A deep, resonant thud as a boulder hits the water, sending up a geyser. Then a sickening crack and splinter as another smashes directly onto a ship. Hulls are breached instantly. Masts snap like twigs. Men are crushed or thrown into the water. The harbor becomes a death trap. The ships are packed together, unable to maneuver. They are sitting ducks. The giants just keep throwing, raining down destruction from above with terrifying efficiency. It's like watching someone drop bowling balls into a bathtub full of toy boats, except the toy boats are your men, your friends, the people who have been with you since Troy. The screams of your men echo off the cliffs, mingling with the crash of stone and the splintering of wood. It's chaos, pure, unadulterated horror. And you are just outside, watching it happen, anchored to that rock. You have to get out, now. Your men on your ship, no, not the Argo, that was Jason's ship. Your ship, whatever you call it in your head, they are already scrambling. You shout orders, voice raw. Cut the cable, get the oars out, row, row for your lives. You hack at the rope anchoring your ship to the rock. It's thick, tough hemp. Every second counts. Inside the harbor, another ship is hit, capsizing violently. Men are struggling in the water, only for more boulders to rain down. Finally, the rope snaps. Your men are already bent over the oars, muscles straining. You push off from the rock with a pull. Pull! Pull! Your ship shoots forward, away from the harbor entrance. Behind you, the screams are starting to fade, replaced by the relentless thud, crack, splinter of the bombardment. The harbor is turning into a graveyard of ships and men. You don't look back. You can't. You just urge your men to row harder, faster. The sea is calm, but the air is thick with the smell of destruction. You are rowing out into the open sea, away from the death trap. You are the only ship to escape. 11 ships went into that harbor. 11 ships full of your men, your comrades. Only one comes out. Yours. The Lystrigonons don't pursue you. They are content with their catch in the harbor. You can still hear faint shouts and the sounds of, well, you don't want to think about what they're doing now. Just keep rowing. You row all through the night, your men exhausted, their faces grim. The rising sun finds you far out at sea, the cliffs of the Lystrigonons a dark smudge on the horizon. You have lost 10 ships, hundreds of men, all gone in minutes, crushed by rocks thrown by giants. It's a devastating blow, worse than anything you've experienced so far, even the Cyclops, because this was a wholesale slaughter, a complete annihilation of most of your fleet. You arrived with 12 ships from Troy. Now you have 1. This kind of loss, it changes things. The remaining men look at you, their eyes wide with fear and grief. You brought them here. You anchored outside, yes, but you still led them into this place. It's a heavy burden. The ancient Greeks, had a complicated relationship with the sea and distant lands. They believed the world was full of wonders and horrors beyond their known sphere. Explorers like Pytheas of Massalia, a real historical figure from a few centuries after your time, roughly contemporary with Alexander the Great, for those keeping score, explored the North Atlantic and described strange phenomena like sea ice and the midnight sun. They pushed the boundaries of the known world, but those boundaries were also populated by mythological dangers in their stories. It's a mix of genuine curiosity and fantastical fear. Speaking of fantastical fear, the Lystrigonons themselves, as historians still argue whether the description of their harbor is based on any real geographical feature in the Mediterranean, or if it's purely mythical. Some suggest places like the harbor at Bonifacio in Corsica, with its sheer cliffs and narrow entrance, bear a resemblance, but others dismiss this as wishful thinking. Were the legends inspired by encounters with particularly large or hostile tribes, or were they just cautionary tales about the dangers lurking in unknown lands? And the idea of giants, it pops up in cultures all over the world. Sometimes they're helpful builders, sometimes monstrous eaters of men. A quirky tidbit, in Greek mythology, the Lystrigonons are sometimes linked to the race of giants, the Gigantes, who warred with the Olympian gods. They represent primeval, chaotic forces, a stark contrast to the ordered world the Greeks sought to build. Encounters like this emphasize just how far you are from the civilized world of city-states and polite society. You are in the realm of monsters now. You look around your ship, so empty. The faces of the surviving men are etched with shock and sorrow. You have to keep them together. You have to keep going. Ithaca feels farther away than ever, not just in distance, but in hope. But you are alive. You have one ship, and you still have your wits. That's something, right? It has to be. You sail away from the land of the Laestrygonians, the taste of salt and terror still lingering. The wind fills your sails, carrying you over the wine-dark sea. Days pass, perhaps weeks. You are lost, truly lost now, navigating by the sun, the stars, and sheer desperation. Your crew is diminished, hearts heavy with grief and fear. They look to you, their leader, their last hope. No pressure. And then you see it. An island. Not large, but lush, green, rising invitingly from the waves. It looks peaceful. Too peaceful, perhaps. As you draw closer, you see smoke rising from a clearing deep within the woods. A sign of life. Or something pretending to be life. You beach your ship, the keel scraping softly on the sand. Your men are hesitant. Who can blame them? Every encounter has brought disaster. You gather a party, about half your remaining crew. Eurylochus, a trusted man, is among them. You tell them to go inland, find the source of the smoke, and see who lives there. You stay behind with the rest, guarding the ship, a knot of anxiety tightening in your gut. They walk inland through thick woods. The air is sweet with the scent of blossoms. Strange animals roam freely, not wild beasts, but lions and wolves, docile, almost friendly, wagging their tails like dogs. It's unsettling. What kind of place is this where predators act like pets? Okay, maybe they're just really well-trained service animals. Probably not. Following the smoke, they come to a clearing. In the center stands a large house, built of polished stone. And from within, they hear a sound, a woman singing. Her voice is beautiful, clear, weaving through the air like golden thread. She is inside, weaving at a great loom. Your men call out to her. She stops singing and comes to the door. She is beautiful, radiant, her hair like spun gold, her eyes bright and captivating. This is Circe, the sorceress, daughter of Helios the sun god and the oceanid nymph Perse, a goddess or something close to it. She invites the men, welcoming them with smiles and gracious words. Your men, weary and hopeful, accept, They have endured so much. A warm hearth and a kind face are irresistible. Only Eurylochus, perhaps more cautious, or perhaps just having a bad feeling. You know that feeling when your stomach just knows something is off? Hangs back outside. Inside, Circe prepares a feast for your men. Wine, cheese, honey, barley meal. It looks delicious, comforting. But into the mix, she stirs something else. A potent drug, a charm designed to steal their memories of home, of Ithaca, of everything they are. Ancient Greeks, while often rational thinkers, also believed deeply in the power of charms, potions, and divine intervention, seeing magic not always as inherently evil, but as a force that could be used for good or ill depending on the user's intent. Circe's intent here, purely selfish. Your men eat and drink, their worries melting away with every bite. And then, as they finish, Circe touches them with her wand, and poof! Well, less poof, more a sudden, horrifying transformation. Their bodies twist, their skin thickens into hide, their voices lose human shape, becoming grunts and snorts. They shrink, growing snouts and tails. Your men, your brave companions, turn into pigs. Not just any pigs, but fully formed swine, though somehow retaining their human minds, trapped and terrified in animal bodies. Circe drives them into her sties, throwing them acorns and berries and roots, pig food. Can you imagine? Worst vacation ever. Eurylochus, watching from outside, is paralyzed with fear. He sees the doors close, hears the commotion, and then silence. He waits, but his comrades don't reappear. Finally, trembling, he runs back to the ship, tears streaming down his face. He bursts onto the beach, breathless, incoherent at first. He tells you what he saw, what he heard. He describes the beautiful woman, the welcoming house, and the terrible fate of your men. Pigs. Your men are pigs. The news hits you like a physical blow. More loss, more horror. Your crew is devastated. They weep and wail, mourning their transformed comrades. Eurylochus is frantic, urging you to flee, to get back on the ship and sail away from this cursed island immediately. But you can't. Not now. Not while your men are trapped, bewitched, turned into livestock. You refuse to leave them. You strap on your sword, string your bow, and order Eurylochus to lead you back to Circe's house. He pleads with you, grabs your knees, begging you not to go, convinced you'll suffer the same fate. He's practically having a panic attack. But you are determined. You must go. It's your responsibility. You leave the rest of the crew to guard the ship and set off alone into the woods, following Eurylochus's trembling directions. As you walk, thinking grimly of what awaits you, you encounter someone. A young man appears before you, radiant, divine. He has a golden wand and winged sandals. It's Hermes, the messenger god. Thank goodness, divine intervention. Finally, just when you needed it most. Hermes stops you, his face kind but serious. He knows why you are here. He knows what Circe has done. He warns you of the drug she will mix in your drink, the wand she will use. But he also offers a solution. He reaches down and pulls a plant from the ground. He shows you how it looks. A black root, a white flower. He calls it moly. This legendary moly plant, described as having a black root and a white flower, has never been definitively identified by botanists, sparking all sorts of theories, from snowdrops to wild garlic, or even something entirely mythical that only gods can grow. Hermes explains that this plant is potent magic. It is the antidote to Circe's spells. He tells you to eat the moly before you drink her potion. When she touches you with her wand and her spell fails, you must rush at her with your sword drawn, as if to kill her. This will terrify her and break her power over you. When she shrinks back and offers you her bed, classic ancient hospitality, right? You must make her swear a solemn oath by the gods not to harm you further, not to plot any more mischief against you. Only then should you trust her, even a little. With this invaluable advice and the magical plant in your hand, Hermes vanishes. You feel a surge of hope. You chew the bitter moly, its strange power tingling on your tongue. You continue toward Circe's house, now armed with divine protection and a plan. You arrive at the clearing. The same docile wolves and lions greet you, wagging their tails. You ignore them and walk straight to the door. You call out. Circe appears, beautiful and serene, inviting you in just as she did your men. You enter. She seats you, offers you the same mix she gave your crew, and a golden cup. You take it, you drink it, the moly in your system neutralizing the drug. It tastes, well, like wine, but you feel nothing unusual. Circe smiles, picks up her wand, and touches you, speaking the words of her spell. Go join your comrades in the sty. But you don't change. The spell has no effect. Circe is startled. Her eyes widen in disbelief. No mortal has ever withstood her magic before. Before she can recover, you leap up, drawing your sharp sword, and rush at her as Hermes instructed, as if to take her life. She cries out in fear, shrinking back from the flashing bronze. She drops her wand and falls to her knees, pleading. She recognizes you now. You must be Odysseus, she exclaims, the man Hermes prophesied would one day come and resist my spells. She is terrified, her power over you broken. She offers you hospitality, her friendship, anything to appease you. You hold the sword point at her throat. You demand that she swear the solemn oath by the gods that she will do you no more harm. She swears it, calling on the powerful rivers of the underworld as witnesses. Only then do you lower your sword. Your next demand is simple. Turn your men back. She agrees, her arrogance gone. She leads you to the styes. Your men, the poor creatures, grunt and squeal, seeing you but unable to speak. Circe smears a different salve, an antidote, on each of them. And as she does, the pig shapes dissolve, their hides smooth, their snouts recede, their legs lengthen, their voices return. They stand before you.
Circe tells you, only the dead can tell you the way home from here. You nod. It's a lot. Visiting the afterlife for travel advice wasn't exactly on your itinerary, but hey, at this point, you've seen worse. Probably. Maybe. Okay, possibly not worse than the land of the dead, but certainly more immediate threats. Circe, ever the gracious host, even when you're ditching her, gives you precise instructions. You need a ship, a crew, brave or perhaps just loyal and resigned, and specific offerings. Lambs, a black ewe and a ram. Their blood is the key, she says, the lure for the languishing souls. You also need honey, milk, wine, water, and barley. Standard picnic fare, apparently, if your picnic is with ghosts. You gather your things. Leaving Circe's island Aea feels different this time. Less like escaping, more like graduating from a very weird, very comfortable university where the main subject was how not to be a pig. The journey she outlines is long, across the ocean, towards the edge of the world, where the sun never shines, to the land of the Cimmerians. You set sail. The waves are familiar, the wind in your hair is real, not conjured. For a while it feels like a normal voyage. But as days turn into nights that seem to last longer, the air grows heavy. The light fades.
not just with the setting sun, but with a creeping, pervasive gloom. The sea turns gray, then black. The sky becomes a perpetual twilight, thick with mist. You are sailing into the Cimmerian land, a place that exists more in myth and shadow than on any map you've ever seen. Historians still argue whether the Cimmerian land described by Homer corresponds to any real geographical location or is purely mythical. It certainly feels mythical. The air gets colder. A damp chill seeps into your bones, unlike the bracing cold of the open sea. It's the cold of absence, of stillness. The sound of the waves against the hull becomes muffled, as if the very air is absorbing the noise. You sail through this suffocating mist until you reach the place Circe described, the meeting point of the river of ocean, the river of fire, Pyriphlegethon, the river of lamentation, Cocytus, and the river of wailing, Acheron. Sounds like a lovely spot for a weekend getaway, right? 5 stars on TripAdvisor, I'm sure? Atmospheric, if a bit gloomy. Bring a sweater. You beach the ship, pulling it high onto the gray, desolate shore. No trees, no plants, just rocks and a perpetual swirling mist that seems to have a life of its own. Your crew is silent, their faces pale in the dim light. Even the most hardened sailors look uneasy. This isn't just a foreign land, it feels like a different dimension. Following Circe's instructions, you lead the way. You find the designated spot near a rock face where the rivers converge. You take your sword and dig a trench about a cubit square. The ground is cold, hard, and smells faintly of damp earth and something else, something ancient and unsettling. Next, the libations. You pour the offerings into the trench, first honey mixed with milk, then sweet wine, then water. As you pour, you scatter white barley meal over it. You make your prayers, promises to the dead, that if you return to Ithaca, you will sacrifice a barren heifer in your palace and heap the pyre with treasures, and sacrifice a black ram specifically to Tiresias. It feels strange making deals with the unseen, like leaving a very specific comment card for the afterlife service department. Now comes the hard part. You take the black ewe and ram. You turn their heads towards Erebus, the deepest darkness of the underworld, and cut their throats. The dark blood pours into the trench, a stark, vibrant contrast against the gray earth. And then they come. From the mist they rise, not walking, not flying, but simply appearing, drawn by the scent of the blood. They are the souls, the Pisces, the shades of the dead. A countless multitude gathering around the trench. Men, women, children, young and old. Warriors killed in battle. Maidens who died young. Old men who wasted away. They are insubstantial, like smoke or shadows, rustling and murmuring. The sound is the most unnerving thing. A low, mournful wail, a collective sigh of endless longing and regret. It's not loud, but it fills the air, vibrating in your bones. You can see their faces, indistinct but recognizable in their general form. Some look towards you with vacant eyes, others seem lost in their own eternal sorrow. You hold them back with your sword, keeping them from the trench and the blood. Circe warned you, only the soul you wish to speak to should drink the blood, as it gives them temporary strength and clarity. The first one you recognize is Elpendor. Poor Elpendor, the youngest of your crew who got drunk on Circe's roof and fell off, breaking his neck. He stands there, a pathetic, misty figure, begging you to give him a proper burial when you return to Circe's island. You promise him you will. It's a stark reminder of the cost of your journey, the lives lost along the way. Even here in the land of the dead, your responsibilities follow you. Talk about a guilt trip. More shades press in. You see Anticlea, your own mother. You didn't know she was dead. The sight of her fills you with grief, a sharp pain in your chest. You long to embrace her, but you remember Circe's words. You must wait for Tiresias. You hold your sword firm, keeping even your mother at bay, promising to speak with her after you have consulted the prophet. This is perhaps the hardest part, seeing loved ones and being unable to reach them. It's like being at a family reunion where everyone is transparent and slightly disappointed in you. One quirky tidbit from ancient Greek beliefs is that the shades in the underworld retained their personality but lost their physical strength and memory until they drank blood. Anticlea's struggle to interact physically with you underscores this belief. You speak with other shades too, famous heroes like Agamemnon, Achilles, Ajax. You hear their stories, their laments about death and the futility of their earthly glory. Agamemnon warns you about trusting women, given his own tragic fate. Achilles says he'd rather be a living slave than a king among the dead. Everyone seems to agree that being dead isn't great. Not exactly a ringing endorsement for the afterlife. You have seen and heard enough. The wailing of the countless shades, the endless gloom, the cold, empty feeling of the place, it's overwhelming. You back away from the trench, gathering your crew who have stood silent and terrified throughout the ordeal. You make your way back to the ship, pushing through the swirling mist and the murmuring throng of the dead. Getting back into the boat feels like returning to reality, even though the air is still thick with mist. You push off from the shore, rowing hard back the way you came, towards the edge of the light. The sounds of the underworld fade behind you, replaced by the creak of the oars and the splash of water. You have faced death itself, spoken with the dead, and received the guidance you needed. The way home is clear, though fraught with peril. You know what you must do now. The journey is far from over, but at least you have a map, albeit one drawn in prophecy and blood.
You are rowing. The chill dampness of the underworld air is slowly replaced by the familiar, salty tang of the open sea. The unnatural silence of the dead realm recedes, leaving only the rhythmic dip and pull of the oars, the soft slosh of water against the hull. Your muscles ache, a welcome, living ache after your journey to the land of ghosts. The light above grows, not the sun yet, but the pale, pearly glow of the upper world returning. You break the surface, blinking against the sudden brightness, pulling your ship fully out of the cave, back into the known, if still perilous world. The voyage back is quieter. The crew, shaken by the brush with death and the sheer strangeness of the underworld journey, are subdued. They look at you with a mixture of awe and fear. You too are different. You have seen the end, spoken with shadows, and carry the weight of prophecies. Tiresias's words echo in your mind, a complex map of dangers and necessary actions. You know what comes next. Your path leads you back to the familiar sun-drenched shores of Circe's island. She is expecting you somehow. Perhaps the wind carried news, or perhaps sorceresses just know things. She greets you with her usual unsettling grace, offering food and rest. You accept, your body craving solid ground and warmth after the cold depths. That evening you sit with her, under a sky thick with unfamiliar constellations, and she tells you about the path ahead. She outlines the trials Tiresias spoke of, adding her own insights, her own chilling details. She speaks of the clashing rocks, Scylla and Charybdis, and the sirens. Ah, the sirens. Their name itself sounds like a soft, deadly hum. Circe explains that they are creatures of irresistible beauty and song, perched on a rocky island surrounded by the bones and rotting flesh of sailors who have succumbed to their call. Their voices promise knowledge, pleasure, everything a man could ever desire, pulling ships onto the rocks. No one has ever heard their song and survived. Well, almost no one. You listen intently, your mind already working. The idea of not hearing the song feels impossible.
Tiresias had told you that you must face certain trials head-on to survive the journey home. Avoiding the sirens entirely feels like cheating fate. Besides, there's a morbid curiosity, isn't there? To hear the most beautiful, most dangerous sound in the world? It's like being offered a spoiler for the universe, even if it comes with a guaranteed, fatal consequence. Circe, perhaps sensing your thoughts, gives you a knowing look. She describes the wax from a certain plant that grows nearby. Melt it, she instructs, and plug the ears of your crew. Pack it tight so they hear nothing. Then you, she looks directly at you, her eyes sharp. If you must hear, you must be bound. Have your men tie you to the mast, tighter than any knot you've ever seen. And no matter how much you beg, plead, or threaten, they must not untie you until you are well past the sound of the song. This is it. Your chance to defy the inevitable, to cheat death through cleverness rather than strength. It appeals to you. The plan is risky, utterly dependent on your men's obedience under extreme duress, but it's a plan. The next morning, under a clear sky, you make your preparations. You gather the crew, your loyal, weary companions. You explain the danger of the sirens, painting a vivid picture of the death and destruction they cause. Then you explain the plan. There are nervous glances, a few pale faces, but they trust you. They have followed you into the underworld and back. Tying you up seems almost mundane by comparison. You take the soft, pliable wax Circe provided. It smells faintly of honey and something herbal. You heat it gently, enough to make it easy to work with. Then you personally go to each man. You take a small ball of wax, warm it between your fingers, and carefully press it into his ear canal. You make sure it's packed tight, testing it gently. "Can you hear me?" you ask each one, and they shake their heads, smiling nervously, their world suddenly muted. It's a strange sight, your entire crew rendered temporarily deaf. It feels a bit like trying to explain complex instructions to someone wearing noise-canceling headphones at full volume, utterly futile. But in this case, that's the point. With the crew's ears sealed, they prepare the ship. You, meanwhile, head to the main mast. You instruct two of your strongest men, Eurylochus and Paramedes, to take the ropes. "Tie me," you command, "to the mast. Use every knot you know. Make it impossible for me to break free." You stand against the sturdy wood, feeling the rough texture against your back. They begin to tie you, wrapping the thick ropes around your chest, your waist, your legs, your arms, securing you firmly to the mast like a figurehead on the ship, not at the bow. They pull the knots tight, testing them, ensuring there is no give. It's uncomfortable, restrictive, but necessary. You look out at the sea ahead. The sun is warm on your face. The crew, deaf and focused, are at their oars, ready. You nod, giving the signal. They push off from Circe's shore, their strokes powerful and synchronized. The ship moves smoothly over the water, heading towards the known location of the Sirens' Island. As you sail, the air changes. It becomes unnaturally still, the usual sea breeze dying down. The water grows calm, almost glassy. The silence, broken only by the creak of the ship and the splash of the oars, which you can still hear, unlike your crew, feels heavy, expectant. You scan the horizon, looking for the island Circe described. And then you hear it, faint at first, carried on the unnaturally still air, a sound unlike anything you have ever heard. It's music, yes, but more than that. It's pure, distilled beauty. It's the sound of everything you ever longed for, everything you ever lost, everything you ever dreamed of. It's the laughter of your son, the warmth of your wife's embrace, the smell of your home, the glory of battle, the secrets of the universe, the answer to every question. It's tailored specifically to your soul, a perfect key fitting a perfect lock. The sound grows louder as you approach. It's not just beautiful, it's compelling. It pulls at you, not physically, but with an irresistible mental and emotional force. You feel an overwhelming urge to leap into the water, to swim towards the sound, to reach the source of this divine melody. Your heart pounds in your chest. Your breath comes in ragged gasps. The sirens come into view. They are not what some later legends might depict. Not fish-tailed maidens, but rather bird-like women, perched among the bleached bones on their rocky outcrop. Their forms are strange, unsettling, but their voices are heavenly. They sing of your past glories, of the Trojan War, praising your cleverness and courage. They sing of the future, promising you knowledge and fulfillment if you would only come ashore. They sing directly to you, using your name, weaving a tapestry of sound and meaning that speaks to the deepest parts of your being. It's the ultimate flattery, the ultimate temptation. It makes every hardship you've faced, every loss you've endured, seem meaningless compared to the bliss they offer. You strain against the ropes, your muscles bulge. You cry out, shouting commands to your men, begging them to untie you, to turn the ship towards the island. You thrash, desperate to be free, to follow the sound. But they cannot hear you. Their faces are blank, focused only on their task of rowing, their ears stuffed with wax. They see your struggle, your agony, but they obey your earlier orders. They row harder, their bodies straining, propelling the ship forward, past the deadly rocks. The song reaches its peak intensity as you draw closest to the island. It floods your senses, overwhelming everything else. It's pure ecstasy mixed with agonizing desire. The pain of being restrained, of being unable to reach the source of such perfection, is almost unbearable. You feel tears streaming down your face, whether from the beauty of the song or the frustration of your captivity. You can't tell. Slowly, agonizingly, the ship moves past the island. The sound begins to recede, growing fainter, softer. The intense pull lessens. The air loses its stillness, the sea its unnatural calm. The normal sounds of the ocean return, the wind whistling past, the waves lapping against the hull. As the song fades completely into silence, the intense compulsion lifts. You slump against the mast, exhausted, trembling. The beauty is gone, leaving only a lingering sense of loss and the stark reality of the gruesome fate you have just avoided, visible on the rocks behind you. It's a bit like coming down from the most incredible sugar rush of your life, only instead of a crash, you just feel incredibly relieved you didn't drive your car off a cliff. Your men, seeing that the danger has passed and you are no longer struggling, look to you for the signal. You manage a weak nod. They stop rowing and two of them come forward. They carefully remove the wax from their ears, blinking and shaking their heads as sound rushes back in. Then they set about untying you. The ropes are stiff, the knots tight. It takes them a few...
You sail on, the siren sweet echoes fading like a forgotten dream. The sea is calm again, deceptively so. You've faced the ultimate pull of temptation, the allure of knowing everything, and you passed. You're practically a philosophy major now, but with better sea legs and significantly more trauma. Circe's words still hum in your ears, a low, steady frequency against the gentle lap of the waves. She warned you, didn't she, about what lay ahead. No more pleasant islands or chatty sorceresses. Now comes the hard part. The really hard part. The kind of hard part that makes you question why you ever left your cozy little island in the first place. All right. War, glory, all that jazz. The sun dips lower, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple that are frankly way too beautiful for the horror you know is approaching. The air grows heavy, charged with an unnatural tension. The sea, which was just moments ago your friend, starts to feel suspicious, like it's hiding something truly awful just beneath its surface. Spoiler alert, it is. You're heading into a narrow strait, a bottleneck of terror.
On one side, a massive, sheer cliff face disappears into the clouds. On the other, jagged rocks jut from the water, looking like the broken teeth of some ancient god. The current here is picking up, pulling you forward with an unsettling speed. It feels less like sailing and more like being flushed down a cosmic drain. Circe described the two dangers perfectly. Two evils lurking on either side of this watery passage. You know their names now. They've been whispered in hushed tones by every sailor who's ever dared to approach this place. And frankly, most of those sailors didn't make it far enough to whisper anything afterwards. To your left, nestled deep within a cave halfway up the sheer cliff, lives Scylla. Circe painted a picture you can't shake. A creature with 12 dangling feet. Seriously? 12? 6 long necks and a terrifying head on each neck, each mouth filled with 3 rows of sharp teeth. She doesn't come out often, Circe said, but she reaches, she snatches, she devours. 6 heads means 6 lives, minimum, every time a ship passes close enough. It's like a really messed up drive-through. To your right, across the narrow channel, lies Charybdis. Not a monster you can see. Not really. She is the whirlpool. 3 times a day, she sucks down the entire sea, rocks and all, into a terrifying abyss, only to spew it all back up again. Circe was clear. Sail too close to Charybdis, and your ship, your crew, you, everything, will be swallowed whole, smashed to splinters, and gone forever. It's the ultimate game over, no extra lives. Circe's words echo back, calm and chilling. She told you there was no way to fight either of them. No magic, no strength, no cleverness could defeat these forces of nature, or maybe just really big monsters. Historians still argue whether Scylla and Charybdis were mythological personifications of real dangers like tidal currents and rocks, or actual fantastical beasts. You had to choose which one to face, and she told you unequivocally, steer closer to Scylla. Lose 6 men, yes, a horrifying thought, but save the ship, save the rest of the crew, save yourself. Face Charybdis, and everyone dies. It's the kind of choice that makes your gut twist, the kind of choice no leader should ever have to make. 6 lives for the survival of many. It feels brutal, calculating, and utterly necessary. You remember the men you've lost already, to the Cicones, to the Lotus Eaters. Well, they just got high, but still. To the Cyclops, to the Lystraganians, to Circe's pigs, briefly, to the Sirens, almost. Each loss is a weight on your soul. Now you have to, knowingly, sacrifice more. You gather your men. You don't tell them everything, not the full horror of Scylla's nature or the certainty of losing some of them. You tell them to row with everything they have, to focus on the passage, to stay away from the swirling terror on the right. You tell them there are dangers, great dangers, on both sides. You keep the most gruesome details to yourself. It's a heavy secret to carry, heavier than any gold from Troy. It feels like you're already carrying the weight of those future ghosts. As you approach the strait, the sound begins. From the right, a low moan, growing into a hungry roar. Charybdis is waking up. The water starts to churn, forming small eddies that spin faster and faster. You can see debris, logs, bits of shipwrecks, maybe even bones being sucked down into the vortex. It's mesmerizing and terrifying, like watching a black hole open up in the ocean. The sheer power of it is humbling. You think about all the ancient mariners who must have faced this, their small wooden boats utterly helpless against nature's fury. The The Strait of Messina, where these terrors are traditionally located, has always been a notoriously difficult passage for ships, even in modern times. It's a place where currents collide and winds howl unpredictably. You grip the steering oar, your knuckles white. Your eyes are fixed on the left, on the dark opening of the cave high above. You can't see Skilly yet, but you can feel her presence, a cold, predatory stillness emanating from the cliff face. The air here is different, damp and heavy with the smell of salt and something else, something ancient and foul. The roaring from Charybdis intensifies. It's a deafening sound now, a monstrous gulping that seems to shake the very air. The water pool is fully formed, a vast, spinning maw pulling everything towards it. The ship is being tugged towards it despite your best efforts to steer left. Your men are rowing like mad, their muscles straining, sweat pouring down their faces. They can see the whirlpool now, its terrifying scale, and they are rowing for their lives. The sound is so loud, it's hard to hear anything else, hard to even think. It's the sound of the ocean being eaten alive. "Row!" I bellow again, my voice hoarse against the din. "Row harder! Keep left!" You are sailing directly into the path of the lesser evil, the one that demands a specific, horrific toll. You look up at the cliff face, scanning for any sign of movement. The cave mouth is dark, a black slash against the gray rock. Nothing. Silence from that side, a silence that is somehow more unnerving than the roar of the whirlpool. And then, just as you are passing directly beneath the cave, it happens. There's a flurry of movement, not a roar, not a splash, but a swift, terrible reaching. 6 long serpentine necks shoot out from the cave mouth with impossible speed. Like giant, horrifying fishing lines, each head snatches a man from the deck. There's no warning, no time to react, just screams, sharp and sudden, cut brutally short. 6 of your bravest, strongest men dangling helplessly for a moment before being yanked upwards back into the darkness of the cave. You hear the sickening sounds, muffled by the distance and the roar of the whirlpool, but unmistakable. The sounds of bodies being dragged, of teeth tearing flesh. It's over in seconds. The necks retract, disappearing back into the cave as quickly as they appeared. Silence falls again from that side, a chilling, absolute silence. Your men are frozen, staring up at the cave in horror, or staring at the empty spaces where their comrades stood just moments before. The ship lurches as the sudden loss of weight unbalances it. The air is thick with the smell of fear and fresh blood, though you try not to look down at the deck. But you can't stop. You mustn't stop. The whirlpool is still roaring, still pulling. You have to keep moving. "Row!" I scream again, shaking my crew out of their terrified paralysis. "Row! Row for your lives! Keep rowing!" Slowly, mechanically, they obey. Their faces are pale, their eyes wide with shock and grief. They row with a desperate, frantic energy now, spurred by the raw terror of what they just witnessed and the immediate threat of the sucking vortex beside them. The eyes focus forward, focused on the light at the end of the strait. You don't look back at the cave. You don't look at the empty spaces on the deck. You don't look at the monstrous, swirling drain that you narrowly avoided. You just steer, grimly. You drift away from the churning horrors of Scylla and Charybdis, the cries of your lost men still echoing in your ears, even over the groan of the damaged ship. The air tastes of salt and fear. You look at the faces around you, hollow, etched with grief and terror. These are the survivors, the ones who made it through the gauntlet, but at a cost that feels impossibly high. Their eyes are wide, staring at nothing, replaying the awful, swift end of their shipmates. It's the kind of silence that speaks volumes, heavier than any storm. The ship itself feels weary, like an old dog limping home. You check the rigging, the hull, assessing the damage. It's bad, but not fatal. Not yet. You need land, desperately. You need to rest, repair, and somehow try to restore some semblance of hope in these broken men. You sail on, the sun climbing higher, beating down on your exhausted crew. Every dip of the oar is a struggle, every gust of wind a reminder of your vulnerability. You are a tiny speck on a vast, indifferent sea, surrounded by the ghosts of your journey. You try to offer words of comfort, of encouragement, but they fall flat. What can you say? Hey, at least we didn't all die. Doesn't quite capture the motivational speech vibe. After what feels like an eternity, a low shape appears on the horizon. An island. It shimmers in the heat haze, green and inviting. A sanctuary. Relief washes over the crew, a desperate, fragile thing. But then you remember Circe's words, sharp and clear, ringing in your mind like a temple bell. The island of Thrinakia, the sacred island of Helios, the sun god, and his cattle. Listen to me, you shout, your voice raw. The crew turns towards you, their eyes holding a flicker of weary expectation. This is the island of Helios. Circe warned me. She warned me specifically. We must not, under any circumstances, touch the sun god's cattle or his sheep. They are sacred, untouchable. If we harm them, ruin will follow, complete and utter destruction, she said. You see the warning register, but it's battling with primal needs, exhaustion, hunger, the deep ache for solid ground beneath their feet. They've been through hell. They want respite. They need respite. Eurylochus, ever the pragmatist, steps forward. His face is gaunt, his eyes sunken. Odysseus, he says, his voice rough with fatigue. You ask us to sail on? Exhausted? Without food or water? In a damaged ship? The night is coming. Storms rise quickly at sea. It is safer to land, rest, and leave at dawn. We can swear any oath you like. We will not touch the cattle. We just need to survive the night. He speaks for them all. You look at their faces again, the silent plea, the bone-deep weariness. They have endured so much for you. You made the hard choice at Scylla and Charybdis, sacrificing some to save the rest. Now you face another impossible decision. Risk the wrath of a god, or risk losing the rest of your men to the sea tonight? Reluctantly, agonizingly, you agree. Very well, you say, but you must all swear a mighty oath. Swear by the sky, the earth, and the gods above that none of you, no matter how hungry you become, will harm a single head of Helios's cattle or his sheep. They are sacred, untouchable. If we harm them, ruin will follow, complete and utter destruction, she said. You see the warning register, but it's battling with primal needs, exhaustion, hunger, the deep ache for solid ground beneath their feet. They've been through hell. They want respite. They need respite. You steer the ship towards the shore. The island of Thrinakia is beautiful, deceptively beautiful. Rolling pastures stretch inland, lush and green, dotted with herds of magnificent cattle and flocks of fat sheep. They are sleek, well-fed, radiating a quiet, sacred aura. No herdsman is visible. They are tended by nymphs, daughters of Helios. It feels peaceful, almost unnaturally so, like walking into a postcard where everything is perfect, except you know the backstory involves a deity who really likes his livestock. You beach the ship in a sheltered cove. The crew disembarks, kissing the solid ground like long-lost lovers. They're safe, for now. You set guards, check the ship, and then try to rest. For a time, the crew keeps their word. They eat the meager provisions, fish the surrounding waters, anything to avoid breaking their solemn oath. But then the weather turns. A fierce gale whips up, pinning you to the island. Day after day, the wind howls, the waves crash, making it impossible to sail. Weeks turn into a month, maybe longer. Historians still argue whether it was truly a month or perhaps a different duration, depending on how you interpret the ancient Greek concept of a lunar cycle in this context. The point is, you are stuck. Your supplies dwindle. The fish disappear from the turbulent waters. Hunger becomes a gnawing ache, then a burning torment. You try to hunt what little game might be on the island, but it's scarce, almost as if the island is too focused on its sacred herds. The cattle graze nearby, plump and oblivious, a constant, unbearable temptation. You see the crew watching them, their eyes hollow with hunger, a dangerous desperation growing. You try to rally them, remind them of the oath, of Circe's warning, but hunger is a powerful god in itself, perhaps more persuasive than even Zeus when your belly is empty. It's like trying to stick to a diet when someone leaves a box of fresh donuts right under your nose. Good luck with that willpower. One day, overcome with exhaustion and worry, you retreat inland to pray to the gods, hoping for a sign, a way out of this trap. You find a sheltered spot, and finally, blessedly, fall asleep. A deep, heavy sleep brought on by stress and hunger. While you're asleep, the inevitable happens. Eurylochus, driven to the brink, gathers the men. He says, his voice hoarse with fatigue, "Listen, you are starving! Starving! What kind of life is this? To die of hunger on an island overflowing with food? The gods, yes, they might be angry, but surely a swift death from a god's hand is better than wasting away like this. We can build a temple to Helios when we get home. Make sacrifices to appease him. It's a risk, yes, but doing nothing is a guaranteed death." His words, fueled by desperation, find fertile ground in the minds of the starving crew. They agree. They choose sacrilege over starvation. They select the finest cattle, perhaps 7 of them, a number significant in ancient Greek religion, often associated with completion or perfection. Ironic given the context. They surround the chosen beasts, kill them, and begin preparing a feast. There are no proper sacrificial implements, no barley meal, none of the usual ritual niceties. This is a desperate, impious act, disguised as a sacrifice. The smell of roasting meat wafts across the island, a smell that should signify celebration and sustenance. But here, it feels wrong, heavy with dread. You sleep through the initial act, but even in your sleep, perhaps, the air changes. There's a strange stillness, a tension. A quirky fringe tidbit from some ancient commentaries suggests that the very hides of the slaughtered cattle began to crawl, and the meat on the spits lowed like living animals, though perhaps that's just the kind of creepy detail added later to emphasize the horror. You wake up, the scent of roasting meat jolting you awake. Relief for a split second. Food. Then a cold dread washes over you. You didn't authorize this. You didn't provide the meat. You race back towards the cove, your heart pounding against your ribs. You see them gathered around fires, gorging themselves on the forbidden meat. Their faces are smeared with grease, a mixture of relief and fear in their eyes. This sight hits you like a physical blow. They did it. They broke their oath. They touched the sacred cattle. "You fools!" you roar, your voice filled with despair. "You have doomed us all!" The crew falls silent, guilt and fear replacing their momentary satisfaction. They know. Deep down, they knew the price, but hunger had blinded them. It's like trying to stick to a diet when someone leaves a box of fresh donuts right under your nose. Good luck with that willpower. Meanwhile, up in the heavens, Helios is informed by his nymph daughter Lampetia, who tends the herds. Imagine getting that phone call. Dad, yeah, listen, something bad happened to the cat.
The sleek, almost impossibly fast Phaeacian ship slices through the waves, silent as a dream. You lie wrapped in fine linen, the rocking motion, the gentlest lullaby you've felt in years. These people, the Phaeacians, are something else entirely. Their vessels require no helmsman, no oars. They understand the thoughts of their passengers and simply go. It's like the ancient Greek equivalent of a self-driving luxury yacht, only way cooler and probably less likely to get hacked. They deposited you asleep onto a familiar shore, along with the generous gifts they bestowed upon you: tripods, cauldrons, gold, and fine cloth all piled carefully beside you. They vanished back into the mist, leaving you alone, surrounded by treasure, on the land you've yearned for a decade. You wake, not abruptly, but slowly. The salt tang in the air, the feel of coarse sand beneath your hand, the sound of gentle waves lapping nearby. It's Ithaca. You are home. Except, it doesn't quite feel like home yet. The landscape is right. The rocky coastline, the hills rising sharply behind, the scent of wild thyme and olive trees. But there's a disconnect. Maybe it's the exhaustion, the sheer disbelief, or perhaps the lingering trauma of everything you've endured. You sit up, looking around, half expecting a monster to pop out from behind a rock or a goddess to appear in a flash of light. And speak of the devil. Just as you're processing the reality of your location, a figure appears, seemingly out of nowhere. At first, she looks like a young shepherd boy, lithe and graceful, but you've seen through disguises before. This is Athena, your divine patron, sometimes helpful, sometimes, well, let's just say she has her own complex motivations, much like a cat deciding whether to purr on your lap or knock your favorite vase off the shelf. She smiles, that knowing, slightly infuriating smile of hers. Odysseus, son of Laertes, you're home at last. You want to weep, to shout, to embrace her, but mostly you just feel a profound weariness. Yes, my lady. But what is the situation? I see my land, but I feel like a stranger. Athena's expression turns serious. Things are complicated. Your house is overrun. Suitors, scores of them, have been feasting on your wealth for years, vying for Penelope's hand. They are arrogant, violent, and show no respect for Xenia, the sacred guest-host relationship that is a cornerstone of our society. Ah, Xenia. A mainstream historical fact for you. In ancient Greece, treating guests well wasn't just polite, it was a religious duty, protected by Zeus himself. These suitors? They're committing sacrilege on a grand scale. And Penelope? Telemachus? You ask, your heart pounding. Penelope is steadfast, though weary and besieged. She uses her wits to delay them, much like her husband, I might add. Athena says, with a flicker of approval in her eyes. Telemachus, he has grown. He has even embarked on a journey to seek news of you, guided by me, of course, but he is young, and the suitors plot against him. This is worse than you imagined. Your home is under siege, your wife and son in danger. The relief of being home is instantly eclipsed by a surge of protective fury. I must go to them now. Patience, Odysseus, Athena says, holding up a hand. That would be foolish. The suitors would kill you the moment they recognized you. You are outnumbered and they are armed. You must first assess the situation, identify your loyal servants, and plan your strike. She gestures towards the gifts left by the Phaeacians. We will hide these. For now, you must enter your own home as a nobody. And then she touches you. It's not a gentle touch, but a transformative one.
You feel your skin wrinkle, your muscles shrink, your hair thin and turn gray. Your fine clothes are replaced by rags, smelling of smoke and poverty. A gnarled staff appears in your hand. Your keen eyes become rheumy and weak-looking. You shrink, becoming stooped and frail. It's unsettling, like watching a time-lapse video of yourself aging decades in moments. One moment you are the battle-hardened king, the next you are an old beggar, shuffling and insignificant. Historians still argue about the specific mechanics of divine transformation in Greek myth. Was it a physical change, an illusion, or something else entirely? Probably best not to overthink the divine magic. Just roll with it. There, Athena says, stepping back to appraise her work. No one will recognize you. Not the suitors, not your servants, not even Penelope or Telemachus. This is your test, Odysseus. You must learn who is loyal and who has betrayed you, all while hiding in plain sight. She gives you instructions. Go first to the hut of your swineherd, Eumaeus. He is fiercely loyal despite being a slave. A quirky tidbit, Eumaeus isn't just a swineherd, he's the royal swineherd, raised almost like family, which explains his deep devotion, a detail often overlooked but crucial to his character. Trust him. He will give you shelter and news. From there, you will make your plans. With that, Athena vanishes as quickly as she appeared, leaving you alone once more, but utterly transformed. You are home, yes, but you are also a stranger in your own land, an old man in rags, invisible and vulnerable. The weight of the disguise settles upon you. It's not just the physical change, but the feeling of being utterly powerless, of being dismissed by anyone who might see you. You feel the rough fabric against your skin, the stiffness in joints that were just moments ago strong and agile. The world looks different from this height, through these seemingly weak eyes. You gather your wits, pushing down the urge to run straight to your palace and unleash your pent-up rage. Patience, assessment. That is the Athena-approved plan, and frankly, it's a good one. Charging in would be suicide. You need intelligence. You need allies. Leaving the hidden treasure near the shore, under Athena's protection, presumably, because you really don't want to lose that stuff after everything, you turn inland. The path is rough, familiar, yet alien in your new body. Every step feels heavier than it should. The sun is rising higher now, warming the land. You hear the distant bleating of sheep, the buzz of insects, the rustle of leaves in the breeze. These are the sounds of Ithaca, the sounds of home, but they are heard through the ears of a beggar, someone outside, looking in. You walk towards the hills, towards where Athena said Eumaeus's hut lies. The journey is slow, deliberate. You observe everything, the lay of the land, the types of trees, the distant smoke from farmsteads. You are a spy in your own kingdom. The irony is sharp, almost painful. After battling monsters and goddesses and armies, your greatest challenge might be navigating your own home, unrecognized and alone. It's a level of social awkwardness that makes fighting a cyclops seem straightforward. As you trudge along, the disguise feels less like a costume and more like a second skin. You start to embody the role, the slightly weary gait, the downcast eyes. You are Odysseus, the king, hidden beneath the guise of an old pauper. Your return is not of triumph and fanfare, but of stealth and secrecy. You are home, yes, but the fight to reclaim it has just begun. And it starts with finding a loyal swineherd and hoping he doesn't kick you off his property. The scent of wood smoke and roasting meat drifts towards you as you approach the small, sturdy hut. This is the home of Eumaeus, your loyal swineherd, a man whose fidelity shines like a beacon after a decade lost at sea and years surrounded by betrayal. You call out, your voice rough and low, perfectly fitting the disguise of a weary traveler. Eumaeus emerges, weathered but kind, and true to the ancient Greek code of Xenia, that sacred duty of hospitality toward strangers, a cornerstone of their society and something even the gods valued. He welcomes you in without question. He shares his meager meal, his humble shelter, lamenting the absence of his master, the king he still serves in his heart. You listen, the words of balm to your soul, knowing his loyalty is real. Then, a ship lands and a familiar figure strides up the path, Telemachus, your son. He's grown into a man, tall and strong. Eumaeus greets him joyfully. Athena, ever the helpful deity, honestly sometimes it feels like she has a bit too much time on her hands, gives you a little divine spruce-up, just enough that when Eumaeus and Telemachus are momentarily distracted, you can reveal yourself. For a moment, you are the king they remember, standing tall and clear. The reunion is emotional, a rush of years and tears and the sheer overwhelming relief of finding each other after so long. You embrace, father and son, plotting the next steps. The plan is simple, audacious and incredibly dangerous. You will return to the palace tomorrow, still in disguise, to assess the situation, observe the suitors, and wait for Telemachus's signal. He will secure the weapons, and when the time is right, you will strike. The next day, you walk towards the palace gates, the disguise feeling less like a burden and more like armor now. The loyal old dog Argos, lying neglected on a dung heap, lifts his head. He recognizes you instantly after 20 years. His tail thumps weakly, a silent, heartbreaking greeting. He knows you, the king, even when no one else does. It's a small, poignant moment, a quirky detail that always gets me, thinking about that loyal old hound waiting all that time. You can't go to him, can't reveal yourself yet. He sees his master one last time, and then, his purpose fulfilled, he passes away. A quiet, loyal end for a good dog. You enter the palace, a cavernous hall filled with the boisterous and arrogant noise of the suitors. They are everywhere, feasting on your stores, lounging on your furniture, treating your home like their personal, all-inclusive resort, minus the tiny umbrellas and the drinks, presumably. They mock you, the old beggar, toss scraps at you, even physically abuse you. You endure it, observing, cataloging their faces, their insolence. Each insult, each indignity fuels the fire building inside you. Penelope appears, still beautiful, still grieving, hounded by these entitled freeloaders who are basically squatting in your palace and demanding her hand. It's the original living in your parents' basement situation, but way worse because they're also trying to steal your wife and kingdom. To finally decide among the suitors, she proposes a test. She will marry the man who can string your great bow, the one you left behind, and shoot an arrow clean through the holes of 12 axe heads lined up in a row. The suitors, one by one, try and fail. They are strong, yes, but lack the skill, the mastery, the sheer power required to even string the legendary bow. It's quite satisfying to watch their puffed-up arrogance deflate with each failed attempt. You, still in disguise, watch from the sidelines. You ask if you might try. The suitors erupt in laughter and scorn. An old beggar stringing the king's bow? The sheer audacity! But Penelope, perhaps sensing something or simply desperate for a way out, agrees. Eumaeus brings you the bow. You take it in your hands, the weight, the familiar feel of the polished wood, the tension of the sinew. It's like greeting an old friend. You examine it, checking for worms. A practical king, even in disguise. The suitors mock you, expecting you to fail miserably. With effortless grace, you string the bow. The sound echoes through the suddenly silent hall, a deep, resonant hum that chills the suitors to the bone. You knock an arrow, draw back the string, aiming carefully. The arrow flies true, whistling through the holes of all 12 axe heads. Silence. Absolute silence. Then you shed your rags. The disguise is gone. You stand there, the king, the master of the house, bow in hand. You announce yourself. The suitors realize, with dawning horror, exactly who you are. Panic erupts. The battle is swift and brutal. Telemachus, Eumaeus, and the loyal cowherd, Philiotis, fight by your side. The doors are barred, trapping the suitors inside. Arrows fly, finding their marks with deadly accuracy. You move through the hall, a force of nature, dispensing justice built up over 20 long years. It's not a prolonged bloody massacre in the sense of explicit gore, but a decisive, overwhelming rout. The suitors, armed but cowardly and unprepared for a true warrior, fall quickly. The hall, moments before filled with arrogant laughter, becomes a scene of chaos and death. When it is over, the great hall is silent again, save for the sounds of cleaning and restoring order. The suitors are dead, their presumption punished. You have reclaimed your home, your throne, with blood and steel. Now comes the final test. Penelope, still unsure, still wary after so many years of deceit and false reports, needs proof. She suggests moving the bed from your chamber. You react instantly, explaining that the bed cannot be moved, for one of its posts is a living olive tree around which you built the entire room. This intimate detail, known only to the two of you, is the final, undeniable proof. Penelope finally believes. The reunion, delayed for so long, is tender and profound. You are home. Your family is restored. Your kingdom is yours again. The journey, the trials, the decade lost, it was all for this moment. Historians still argue whether Penelope's hesitation was genuine doubt or a clever test of her own, but in that moment, it doesn't matter. The long, winding road has led you back to this embrace, this quiet certainty. You have fought monsters, defied gods, navigated treacherous seas, and faced down death countless times, all to return to this place, these people. And as you finally rest, the weight of the bow gone from your hand, the noise of battle faded, you know, deep in your weary bones, that it was, unequivocally, worth it. The sounds of the palace begin to settle. The echoes of battle soften, fading into the quiet hum of a household finding peace after turmoil. The great hall, so recently filled with the clamor of conflict, now holds only the gentle sounds of cleaning, of restoration. The air, once thick with tension, begins to clear, carrying the faint, familiar scent of olive wood and aged stone. Outside, beyond the walls of the palace, the night deepens. The moon casts a soft silvery light over Ithaca, illuminating the familiar coastline, the rolling hills, the quiet harbor where your journey began so long ago. The sound of the waves, a constant companion throughout your epic voyage, now reaches you as a lulling whisper, a gentle rhythm of the sea that finally welcomes you home instead of threatening you. Feel the solid ground beneath you, the ancient stones of your palace. Feel the quiet presence of your loved ones nearby, safe at last. The weight of the world, the burden of the journey, the constant vigilance, it all begins to dissolve. The fear, the longing, the uncertainty, they are just distant memories now, like clouds drifting slowly across the night sky. Breathe in the stillness. Let the peace settle deep within you, a calm that has been decades in the making. The adventure is over. The trials are past. There are no more monsters to face tonight, no more storms to weather, only the quiet comfort of being home. Let your thoughts drift, like a boat finally reaching a safe harbor. The images of the journey soften, becoming hazy and indistinct, replaced by the simple, soothing reality of this moment. Close your eyes. The sounds around you fade, the light softens, and the peace you fought so hard for